have you with us as we start hour number 3 of our radio program here on a busy program here on Mad Dog Unleashed. Great to have you with us. Eddie Erickson and Colin Schmilling, yours truly. You heard from Peter King today with all the football, and we got a lot going on as far as what's going on here at college basketball today. Providence just beat Creighton by 4. Sounds like Creighton's in the tournament anyway. We'll see. I think Nevada is going to get by Vegas. Is that correct? Which is an important game because I'm not sure if a couple of teams are going to make it from that league. The good news today in college basketball, at least for our part of the world, is Colorado has been eliminated. Arizona's up big there, so that will take care of Steve with his Colorado team. He jumped on the bandwagon when the kid went to go play baseball there. So Colorado's out, and Indiana's out. And Steve can get wrapped up in the NIT bracket because Colorado today punished by Arizona. And so Steve now, like the rest of us, has no rooting interests as far as college basketball is concerned, although he does go to Vegas next week to bet, and you know he'll go crazy. They will play 2 games tonight at the Garden. Marquette and Villanova will get a game in. Seton Hall will play tonight against Butler. There's a couple games down about 5 miles away in Brooklyn tonight, Duke and Carolina. So it's amazing. You bring Duke and Carolina, you put them in a doubleheader at the I don't care where the arena is. You put Duke and you can put them in South Dakota. You give them Duke and Carolina on the same night against different opponents. They're going to sell the place out. That's all there is to it. And both of them play tonight in Brooklyn. Duke goes up first, Notre Dame. Carolina second. Will play tonight. Who are they playing in that second game? I got to think of it for a second. I know Duke plays Notre Dame in the first game, and Carolina in that nightcap tonight plays Miami. There we go. In that second game. So, and then, of course, North Carolina could play Duke tomorrow. Virginia will play Clemson tomorrow in the first game at the Barclays Center. Clemson eliminated Boston College today, so BC is out of there. Had a good run in this tournament. They won 2 games, competitive against Clemson today, but BC is eliminated now from the ACC. That's one team that was going to have an opportunity to take a bit away, and out they go. So college basketball, it's a big weekend for college basketball. They have some juice, they have a little life, and we'll get to Dick Vitale a little bit later on. The NBA, there are 2 teams that right now I think are worth discussing. One of them is, of course, really 3, but one of them is Houston. Houston right now is 50-13. I mean, Houston's going to win. Houston's going to win. They're going to go 62-20 at the worst. Probably do better than that. And Houston's going to win 63-64 games. So you are going to have the possibilities of Houston and Golden State, 2 teams in the mid-60s playing in a conference final, and that is where you're hearing all the discussions about moving it to 116, 215, and do away with the conference affiliation, because the NBA is going to have their 2 best teams most likely playing the semifinals instead of the finals. Houston's won 17 in a row. They beat the Bucks last night in Milwaukee. They're 51-13. I said 50. 51-13. Now, I am not convinced myself, personally. I am not convinced that the Rockets are a big-time team. Now, I know they're a nice regular season team. They obviously have a wonderful backcourt in Paul and Harden. They can be very interchangeable. Capella's turned out to be a pretty good player. Gordon can shoot threes. Ryan Anderson can shoot threes. Ariza's a very, very good player. Does a little bit of everything. He's got a lot of intangibles with him. He can make a shot. He can play defense. He runs the floor. I get all that. And D'Antoni's teams are tough to play against in a regular season. But again, Houston to me is going to be a fascinating watch in the Western Conference. There are a couple of teams that are going to be very interesting to keep an eye on in this postseason early on before we get to deep into it. One of them is definitely going to be the Rockets because a lot's going to be expected. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them, and as a result of that, we're going to see what they do. Right now, I don't think Houston is going to beat Golden State by any stretch of the imagination. They have not played well against Golden State in the past. They have been buried by the Warriors. They've lost 8 of 9 games in previous postseason series. I don't expect them to beat Golden State, but I do expect them to be competitive against Golden State. And Houston is going to have to give us a very, very good showing for themselves and play a long series against the Warriors for me to think they've had a hell of a successful season. They get smoked in 5 games. I'm not going to care. They got to extend Golden State, play a minimum 6 games, not go half in the bag as they did last year against the Spurs in a Game 6 where they didn't care and they scored 60 points and lost. I mean, D'Antoni has never coached in a final. He had the one chance with the Suns, and then, of course, they had the suspension with Stoudemire against San Antonio. There was no guarantee they were going to win that series anyway, but he had a chance to beat the Spurs. He did not do so. The Spurs were his nemesis constantly. I know he's an excellent regular season offensive coach, but I don't trust Houston to go down and dirty, dig deep, play a big defensive stand against a big team, force a team to take bad shots and everything else. Houston does not do that, and I don't trust Houston to do that. Plus, Harden's not been a great postseason player. Obviously, Paul's never played in a conference final. Houston's going to be interesting. That's the first team. The other team that's interesting right now in the NBA is what New Orleans is up to. They've won 10 in a row. They're 12 over 500. No Cousins. Now, they're going to keep their fingers crossed on Antonio Davis, who's going to go for an MRI in his ankle. Let's assume that's all right for the moment. New Orleans right now is the 3 seed in the West. Did you know that? 3 seed. New Orleans is the 3 seed. I mean, if you're the 3 seed and you should get through it. Now, again, the West is so even that anybody 3 through 10 could win. I mean, New Orleans, San Antonio, Minnesota, Portland's won 8 in a row. OKC, they got a lot of work to do to make the playoffs. There's a lot of Denver. There's a lot of interesting teams late in the NBA playoffs in that last section there in the West who will be, seeds 5 through 8 who will be very dangerous, and there's no guarantee New Orleans will be able to get by that and win that series. But I'll say one thing right out of the gate. New Orleans at 38-26 has a chance to have a hell of a postseason, and I'm telling you, you can't sit there and tell me that this is because Cousins has been out. I know they have played a lot better in the last 10 games. He hasn't played in any of them. They won them all, but they were playing really well before he got hurt. Then they had a bad 5 to 8 game stretch, and then they picked it up again. If they had Cousins, they would be dangerous right now. Now, I don't think they can win an NBA championship, but New Orleans is a team that will be maybe they got it. He is so good. Antonio Davis, folks. You can make an argument. Now, people are going to say Harden. You can make an argument he's the 3rd best player in the league. You can make that argument. LeBron, Durant, and him. Now, he's hurt a lot, but he is a dominant player. I love him as a player. And, look at the other night. 41 points, 13 rebounds. 3 for 3 from the line, 17 of 31 from the field. 2 assists. He had a couple of block shots, 3 block shots. I mean, you can make an argument. He did have, and he had 3 steals. I mean, you can make an argument that he's the 3rd best player in the league. Now, again, people would think I'm nuts, but you can make that argument. So New Orleans is going to be interesting. New Orleans and Houston. 12 after the hour, we continue. Mad Dog Unleashed.